Bulletcast for life.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time is the founder of Stockton Con and wrestling manager, Mike Miller. Mike, how you doing, bud?
I'm great, Philip. Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem, man. I haven't seen you in a very long time.
Yeah, it's probably been January of 20, I think, right?
Yeah, man. When I made it out to Stockton Con, my first ever Comic-Con convention thing, I got to interview Kelly. Thank you for that. Childhood dream come true.
Of course, man.
So, man, I mean, just how have you been, man? What have you been doing since the whole pandemic?
It's everybody's kind of had their own thing going on during this, and I, when we obviously everything got shut down in March of 20. We were getting ready for the at the time the Lodi Comic-Con was going to be in May, and what happened was, obviously everything was just completely shut down. So, we had guests lined up, we had really everything ready to go. Vendors were lined up, everything was going, but we just had to stop and kind of move on. We thought there was a chance we might get back to do Stockton Con in August, but of course, the pandemic, just kind of kept going on, and everybody kind of needed to stay indoors and avoid crowds and all that kind of stuff. So, so we moved Stockton Con to an online event. So we had some fun guests there and did some stuff with some artists and some celebrities and that sort of thing. But then we were hoping November we might be able to do something. So we actually had set up a Lodi Tailgate Con, Lodi Comic-Con Tailgate Edition was the official name. And we were set for, I believe it was November 27th. And what happened was we've been working hand in hand with the San Joaquin County Health Department. And just because we wanted to be on the same page with them and, didn't want to do anything too early, but they had given us approval for that event and we were ready to go. It was all going to be outdoors. People had to wear masks and everything, and just kind of got to that point where we got that surge that came in kind of the middle of November, and they shut us down about 5 days ahead of that event. So, we are excited. We have now moved on, and our first event since January of 2020, which was Stockton Con Winter, is now going to be Lodi Comic-Con coming up on June 27th.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to get into the whole convention thing, but I want to talk about the wrestling
Sure.
aspect of your career. So, I mean, I've noticed you at APW events, helping guys with autographs and pictures. Then obviously you're a manager. How did you get involved in professional wrestling? What was the did you jump right into the manager aspect, or the kind of being a handler of the money and stuff like that?
When I've been a wrestling fan since I was a child. My grandfather took me to a wrestling match, and Andre the Giant was there, and it was pretty amazing. But it's one of those things where I wouldn't say it was a lifelong dream to be involved, but it just kind of evolved. In 2013, I believe, was the first time we had Pro Wrestling Bushido and Bobby Hart involved with Stockton Con. So we have the wrestling ring is set up outside the arena, and I think it might have been 2014, but that nevertheless, 2014 is when I kind of got a little more involved and started helping out Bobby Hart with Pro Wrestling Bushido, and helping out Josh Littell's Sir Samurai at Supreme Pro Wrestling up in Sacramento. It was a little bit of stuff where I was just helping film matches, and I had a flip cam, so would just get different kind of angles of things, and just getting involved in that way, and just trying to help in any way possible with those events while doing my other job when I was working at the University of Pacific at the time. So it was just kind of something I was I enjoyed it, wanted to help the guys improve what they were doing, and I don't know if I did that at all, but it was one of those things where it just kind of grew from there. And I had known Marcus Mack for a long time. We had met at a WWE event in Sacramento many years ago, and it was just one of those things where it was just kind of an evolution. Hey, I'm going to be in the area. I want to come out and check out the event. And so it was just more or less helping him, with some of the wrestlers, would help bring a few guys in, or if he had somebody that was already in that needed a handler, I would help, handle his money and do, the photos and that sort of thing. And just, it's just the experience with doing like the personal appearances and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, man. So yeah, and you've become more of a manager as of late. I mean, I've seen you manage like JR Kratos. You guys have had your little beef over the past couple years. I mean, NWA tag team champion. So I mean,
yeah.
Well, whatever you taught him, it worked. It
well,
helped.
I work for All Star Sports as a head of acquiring talent, and that is my Don't spell that out. Well, Kratos and Jeff Cobb were two of my first clients with APW, and of course they kind of turned their back on me, but obviously I could be more happy for both of them. And Jeff Cobb's been doing an amazing job in New Japan, and and Kratos with NWA and with Bloodsport, and he's an amazing talent. I mean, doesn't like me so much, but that's okay. But yeah, and so my role with Supreme Pro Wrestling is it's kind of grown over the years. As I mentioned, it's kind of about evolving. And so, I kind of started there as kind of an assistant vice president, for the company. And now I'm the president of Supreme Pro Wrestling. So, I pretty much run the show.
There you go, man. So how do you go about selecting a client to represent? What qualities do you look for?
I mean, obviously, the number one thing is that you want to be able to enhance what their abilities already have. Like, so you want to take somebody to the next level. I don't want to just jump in. Well, I mean, maybe with Kratos and Cobb, but but then, I mean, we basically it was all about destroying Kratos. So I would bring in whoever I felt was the most likely to defeat Kratos. And we had some setbacks, but I mean, we're definitely it's something where working on the sidelines with somebody and being like either a coach or manager or whatever you want to call it, you don't want to take away from anything that you're doing. You want to help that person kind of get to the next level.
Absolutely. I'm a high school wrestling coach, so I understand that 100%. So I mean, you've had some guys come in and try to get Kratos. I think you brought in David Hart Smith Jr. at one point, right?
Yeah, Davey Boy Smith Jr. Yeah, we had Drake Frost. I mean, there were a few challengers. Sam Adonis. Yeah, so
Yes.
We've had some high quality folks. So
was Cobb the first guy that you managed, or was it somebody else?
I think there were some folks that I worked with at Supreme Pro Wrestling before that. So I mean, it was kind of like working as a president. I would also work with some of the talent, trying to enhance their lives a little bit.
Absolutely. So I mean, like I've seen you in action, man. You do a great job in the manager role, and like I mean, honestly, like back in the day, like you honestly, Sherry, Bobby the Brain Heenan,
Sure.
Mr. Fuji, etc. Would you say managing is a lost art in wrestling today?
I think so. I mean, I think that you're not seeing that type of talent. I mean, as they are or as they were, is I guess the best way to say it. I mean, Bobby the Brain Heenan was just kind of he was an amazing entity and a force in wrestling. And you saw these factions and that sort of thing that were just really amazing. I mean, obviously, this could be a whole podcast. I mean, we could talk about just, my inspirations and the people that I loved watching. I could just talk about who my favorite managers were for an hour. But like, J.J. Dillon with the Four Horsemen, Gary Hart in Texas. I mean, he was amazing. I'll go back and watch some of these matches where I know, that Gary Hart was involved. I mean, nowadays, like, I'm sure you watch every bit of wrestling you can, but like, the job Tully Blanchard is doing with the Pinnacle is really awesome. I think he's doing a great job. I cannot say enough amazing things about MVP. I mean, I want to say that, I mean, if I were to say this, and this is just my opinion personally, I mean, there were some things you could say great things about Drew McIntyre and obviously Lashley was elevated by MVP, but I think the two MVPs of the kind of the era without crowds for WWE were probably Asuka and MVP.
No, yeah, what 100%, man. Because you look at what MVP did, former APW champion. Throw that in
Yes,
there.
for sure.
I mean, he took Bobby Lashley, who was in an interesting storyline with Lana. Shelton Benjamin was just smiling on TV, and what was it? Cedric was just getting his ass kicked every week, and ass handed to
Sure,
him. And he took all those guys and elevated them to championships and got
sure.
Bobby to the world title. I mean, that's a level of talent that's just unmatched. And it goes back to the stuff that he was doing in TNA with the Beatdown Clan.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that I wish that would have lasted a lot longer. I thought that was a really good faction as well.
Yeah, man. And if you go back and listen to interviews from that time period, all the stuff he's kind of doing with Lashley now, he was talking about back then. So this has just been a constant evolution, and that's most beautiful part about the art form. Now, I want to talk to you about the managers that you loved back in the day, man. Like,
Right.
so I mean, obviously Bobby the Brain Heenan, because I want to throw this at you. I mean, you look at WrestleMania 3. Heenan's basically out there for almost every match. Is that
Sure.
something you would want to evolve to in the future for like a
I
big
don't.
show?
I don't think so. I think I think that we're in a it's a different time now, but definitely. I mean, I would love to have a group, stable faction, whatever you want to call it. But you know, going back then, I mean, obviously Bobby the Brain Heenan, it was just amazing. One of my all-time favorite storylines was when Macho Man Savage came into the WWE, and it was on Wrestling Superstars, and so another. I use the word evolution a lot, but it was kind of like an evolution of the managers in WWF at the time, where every week a different manager would court Macho Man, and they're kind of doing a little bit of that in AEW right now with Jade Cargill, where different folks are coming in to try and make her offers to manage her. She doesn't need a manager, I don't think, but I kind of like the angle in a way,
Okay,
because I
okay.
think what it could do is if she's kind of working as a heel right now, but a lot of times you can kind of get into a situation where you could kind of do a turn with her where she doesn't like Vicky Guerrero is pitching her. I'm just using that as a name, but Vicky Guerrero is pitching her to manage, but then Vicky Guerrero gets mad that she doesn't go with her, and then she has her own talent to have a feud with Jade Cargill, something like that.
That's what's up. So I mean, you mentioned JJ Dillon. Like, do you have a specific moment in time where you thought, okay, this guy is probably the best in the game right now, or anything like that?
I just admire anyone that's worked in that in that at that level. You could put JJ Dillon and Bobby Heenan and some of these other folks. Gary Hart's in there as well. Jimmy Hart. I mean, like I said, we could talk managers all night, and I know that I'm going to forget some, but there are other folks that maybe they do get the credit because they're well known, but like Slick was an amazing manager. And so there's just I would find it hard to believe that you could watch any manager, and you mentioned at the top Sherry Martel. Sensational Sherry was amazing, and that whole storyline with her and Macho Man and Elizabeth, that's probably one of my favorite storylines. And now I'm a huge Macho Man fan, but that whole thing where it culminated with Elizabeth hitting Sherry. I'm blanking on the. I think it was I'm blanking on the WrestleMania, but it was like the culmination of the storyline. So
Yeah,
but yeah, that was just that was a moment in time. It's one of those things where you can go back to anytime.
I want to ask you this. Arn, he's behind me here on the wall. How do you feel
Sure.
about the whole coaching thing?
Well, as in Pro Wrestling Alliance, I am working there as Coach Miller. And this was, obviously this is pre-pandemic, but I was managing a team with Lucian Delight and Derek Slade and Bobby Callahan called the Home Team. And so, the whole coaching thing is something that I love. I worked in athletics for 27 years, so I would not as a coach, but you pick up a lot of things from coaches in that time. I kind of like it. I like the way he's doing it. I wouldn't say I think he maybe is underutilized, and I think maybe the way that he's being used isn't exactly how I would use him. I like that he is a coach, but I don't see the coaching element, if that makes sense. He's a manager,
Yeah.
but like, for instance, if I'm coaching somebody, like I'm coaching the home team, unfortunately, I kind of coach it like it's a basketball game, so it doesn't really match up very well. And in fact, this kind of all slides together. I'm going to be posting that match, the debut match of the home team, later this week. So look out for that, and maybe I'll send you the link, and you can put that out as well.
Absolutely, man. I mean, because I'm an amateur high school wrestling coach, so
Sure.
I when I watch Arn, I want him to be like, all right, Cody, get that leg. All right, now
Exactly.
like turn his arm 6 inches to the right, stuff like that.
Sure.
I mean, he comes out with his plays or the notes or whatever, but I mean, just like adding like little elements like that will enhance the story so much more, I feel like.
Sure.
Now,
No, I agree with you.
Now, as we talk about SPW, I mean, you're the president over there, but you've gotten in the ring. You've gotten in the ring. Sir Samurai was the Extreme Champion, and on was it April 14th, 2019, you guys had a tables match.
We did. We had a tables match at the anniversary show, and it was one of those things where I just didn't feel like he was fit to be champion, and we lined up a lot of challengers to take the championship away from him, and we could never get it done. So I kind of took it upon myself. Now, I mean, we don't need to really talk about the result of that match, other than the fact that it was probably one of the shortest table matches in the history of wrestling, but that's all right. I'm in the record books, Philip.
Hey, man, that's what's important. Get in there somehow. So, I mean, like, how bad did it hurt, my guy? How bad did that table hurt?
Well, I'm sure you're aware, and I know a lot of folks are, but some may not be aware that I had heart surgery in 2017.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely, I put myself at risk in that match. I mean, I was definitely determined to not lose that match. I did not want to go through that table. I wanted him to go through that table, but yeah, I mean, I was out. I don't know if you saw the whole match, but I was pretty much unconscious for about 20 minutes.
Oh my God. That's insane.
In the ring. And I mean, there's other layers to this as the president, I mean, there should have been someone that, I mean, to pay a little bit of attention to me, get me out of the ring at least.
Yeah. You're going to have to,
but the bottom line though, is the Samurai did lose the title that night. So
Patrick, hey, Barry Horowitz, give yourself one. Oh yeah. So, I mean, like, you've been involved in wrestling, managing, president of SPW,
mm-hmm.
but you've also been running events for quite a long time,
Sure.
And you were an integral part in helping APW run the Cow Palace.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that Marcus Mack and I had talked about for a long time, and when we had talked about it, he was, I mean, that was a dream for him. I mean, I don't think I'd been to more than maybe one or two matches at the Cow Palace or events. And pro wrestling, but I mean, that's where he spent his childhood, going to WWE, AWA, WCW, different types of events. So, that was one of those things where, like, man, I thought that was something that we could really do something great. And I mean, we had an amazing turnout. It was a great show. I mean, that was an amazing night.
I was at both of them, man. And people talk about Madison Square Garden. Obviously, it's the mecca for events and whatnot. But the Cow Palace, I mean, you hear about Pat Patterson and Roy Shire, Ray Stevens, and the Jacksons and Elvis. And you could, like, I'd never been to the Cow Palace. That was a bucket list thing for me as a younger fan, going to these different venues, these historical venues, and just you could kind of just feel the history in there, man.
Yeah, when we got in there that afternoon, there was definitely something in the air, and it was great. And going back, you mentioned, Pat Patterson, and having him be a part of that event was really a big thing for us to be able to bring him out. And, Dr. Lee, from San Francisco, an optometrist, he really helped us do that. And we can't thank him enough. But, Marcus, laid out a great card that night. I mean, it was such a from top to bottom was a great event. And we were unfortunately, and I will say this, I was unfortunately, as I mentioned, I had heart surgery in 2017, so I was unable to be at the November event because I was still in the hospital. But I mean, I know that was another great show with Rey Mysterio involved, and it was great. Cody headlining the May show and being able to, have a crowd, that was one of the, at the time, one of the largest indie crowds that had ever watched, not ever, but had watched wrestling in the United States in a very long time.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, hopefully APW, whenever they resume sometime down the line, hopefully they can run the Cow Palace again. I'll be there. I'll be first in line. I'll be first in line. But we talked about running events, man. You're the founder of Stockton Con. So how did you get involved with these Comic Cons and these conventions and whatnot?
So the real quick story on it is that I've been a fan of comics and pop culture for many years, going back into the when I was a child. But I really kind of learned about Comic Con in the mid 2000s, and I started going every year to San Diego, and it was a great event. I loved it. I just would always meet up with friends. We'd kind of have a reunion there every year, and it was just one of those things where after a few years of going, I got to a point where I was like, man, it would be really cool to do something like this, on a much, much smaller level in Stockton, which is where I lived at the time. And, I was like, well, let's see if we can do it. And I worked at University of Pacific at the time, and we did a charity event. I talked with the president of the United Way, a friend of mine by the name of Andy Prokop, and said, hey, is this something that you would like to, to get the United Way involved in? And so we ended up starting Stockton Con that year in 2012, and we had so many people lined up. We basically decided by noon that if we were going to do it again, we couldn't do it there because we kind of outgrew the building by noon.
Yeah, because like 1,000 people were expected to show up and 4,000 show up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was, real on the low key side of it. I was hoping for 750 to 1,000. 1,000 was my high end, and to get 4,000, I think it was 42 something. I mean, was just beyond all of our expectations. So we raised a lot of money for charity. The first few years of the event was solely for charity, just paid off expenses and that sort of thing. And so, so over the 8, this will be the 9th edition this year. Over our first 8 years, we've raised close to $200,000 for charity. So, which, and that goes back to, people in the community, United Way, St. Mary's Dining Room, the San Joaquin, the Child Abuse Prevention Council. I mean, just a lot of different charities that we worked with, Salvation Army here in Lodi. So, we definitely wanted to get people involved with us that we could help give back to. And so, we did our one day at Stockton Arena in 2013. And then in 2014, we moved to a 2-day event. So, and this year, the 2-day event will be September 11th and 12th. So we're moving back a month. We're aiming to get back to August next year, but with the arena operating as a vaccination center, we wanted to definitely, make sure that they had plenty of time to get through that and get everybody vaccinated that wanted to be vaccinated.
So when you see the 4,000 plus show up, man, what's that like for you on a personal level?
On a personal level, I felt horrible because we had the ticket booth at UOP. We just didn't have enough ticket sellers to get the volume of people through. So we had a line that went out to the street and then down like around the corner. I mean, it literally went almost like not quite a quarter mile, but like close to that. So I felt horrible because we wanted people to get in. We didn't want people to get upset and leave because they couldn't get in. Obviously you want to have buzz, and as at the Cow Palace, we had a really long line of people waiting to get in, but most of those folks had tickets, so it was just really a lot of people were going up and buying tickets the day of the event, and so I felt horrible initially. Obviously, it was a very humbling experience because I was just honored to be a part of something that so many people came out for and supported, and and it's just carried on for so many years, and we try to give back and bring some awesome guests out and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So you mentioned Stockton Con's coming back September 11th and 12th. You got
Yeah.
you got some big names planned?
We're still working on some names for September. The one thing that had happened was, we didn't, being in California, we're a little bit behind some of the other states as far as getting back to doing events and doing larger events. So there are going to be a few things different about Stockton Con this year, obviously, but a lot of events around the country kind of moved back into September and August, and around those dates. So that being said, we're still working on some of our guests. We have some guests lined up. We're announcing our ticket sales. The ticket sales for Stockton Con go on sale next week on the 17th, and we're going to make some guest announcements there. I'm pretty sure you'll have a couple of smiles included.
Okay, that's what's up, man. Because yeah, like, I went to Stockton Con last year. I mean, it was cool. It was really cool. Not just a
dog wanted to be a part of the podcast.
Dog loves Stockton Con too, man. Hell yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, just kind of walking around that day, and like you see like Tatiana Ali from the Fresh Prince. I'm a huge Fresh Prince fan. You see homie played the Black Ranger in Mighty Morphing Time, and chopping it up with him for a little bit. Just seeing like all these people and whatnot. I thought that was really cool to step back and be like, yo, this is dope, and to go on the floor and see all the people selling their stuff, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing that we always try to do at Stockton Con and Lodi Comic Con is we try to bring out a variety of guests. So maybe you're a Fresh Prince fan, maybe you're a wrestling fan, maybe you're a Power Ranger fan. So we try to bring in folks, voice actors, from different genres. Sometimes we'll bring in a horror actor. Or, it's just a little bit of variety. I think is fun, and we do tend to get a good number of wrestlers just because we have we have a lot of wrestling fans in the area too.
Yeah, so Lodi Con, it's coming back June 27th. So how soon after did Lodi Con come after Stockton Con? Are you the founder? Are you just a contributor, an overseer? Well, what's the deal with that?
Right. So we founded Stockton Con in 2012, and that grew into Stockton Con events. So we actually started two other events in 2016. One is Lodi Comic Con, which was originally called Grape City Con. And then we changed it to Lodi Comic Con going into last year. So this will actually be the first Lodi Comic Con by name. And so then we also did the Central Valley Con in Modesto, and that event was sold in 2019. So we did have three events originally, and then we moved from doing the Stockton Con summer event, adding on to that to do a Stockton Con winter event, which was the first event you were able to come to.
Okay, that's what's up, man. I mean, looking at it, you have Brock Powell coming in. He's a voice actor. Justin Greenwood, he's a comic book author. West Coast Design, he designed a lot of the championships.
Sure.
For the promotions out here. A good buddy of mine designed the Bullet Cast title.
Yeah.
And of course, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He's an integral part of the storyline in NXT right now. So,
right.
I mean, who else do we got coming, Mike? Who else can we expect from the wrestling world, from the pop culture world? Can you tell us?
Right now, I cannot divulge because there's a couple of things. I mean, like I said, we're only 2.5 weeks out from the Lodi Comic Con, so we are finishing things up, and it should be in the next couple of days. So we'll get everybody announced. I wish I could drop somebody right now. I just don't have that signature that I need to be able to say, "Hey, Philip, we got this guy coming or this lady coming."
Okay. Will more wrestlers be there because the wrestling podcast? Will there be some?
Of course.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. I mean, of course, it's a wrestling podcast. I can't commit to that one way or the other right at this moment. But
okay.
We're definitely we're in negotiations with some folks. I will say that.
Okay. We got some more. We got some more.
Not trying to switch it up.
We got some.
No comment, Philip.
Oh, no comment. Okay. Oh, I won't push. But yeah, man. I mean, I'm excited. I'm gonna try to make it out to that. That's gonna be cool. But as we wind down here, this is the rapid fire portion of the interview. So, favorite wrestler of all time?
Macho Man.
All right. Favorite gimmick of all time?
Oh, that's a great question. Rapid fire, you can't throw me like that. I got to think about that one.
Like I'm a Razor Ramon fan. Like I
Yeah.
love that gimmick. So I mean, like,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get have to default to Macho Man. I mean, he was a gimmick in and of himself.
yeah,
Maybe the $1 Million Man. How about the $1 Million Man? That's
how about
that's a
the
better
$1 Million
answer.
Man? There we go.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little Macho Man?
No, I can't do it.
Favorite tag team of all time?
Wow, that's a great question. Probably Road Warriors.
Okay. What can you give us? What a Rush?
No, I can't do it. But I would say honorable mention to Harlem Heat. I love Stevie Ray and Booker T.
Oh,
I mean, they were
Harlem Heat were what's up with Sister Sherry?
Sister Sherry. There you go. Yeah, Booker T was a guest at Lodi or Grape City Con a couple of years ago, and I've actually Booker T is one of my favorite people that I've met in the business, and we've actually we've had some talks about doing some fun things down in Texas. So we'll see what happens there.
That's what's up, man. I met him at the APW show he went to.
That
was super cool, man. Super nice guy.
That was the weekend of the Grape City Con. He came. We did a kind of a double team there.
Okay, I see. What's your favorite Stockton Con and Lodi Con moment?
I mean, for Stockton Con, I got to go back to the first event and not knowing that we had so many people lined up and finding that out, even though it was kind of I felt horrible, like knowing and realizing that there were that many people out there was obviously it was the best moment. And I think it kind of ties with being able to present that first check to St. Mary's Dining Room and United Way that after our first event, because it was a considerable number of amount of cash. So, and for Lodi, I think again I go back to the first one, and it was when we were doing the event in February, and unfortunately, sometimes you're battling the weather, and we had it rained for the first like 2 hours of the show, and at the end of the day. And if you go back onto our Instagram is at Stockton Con, but we do our Lodi events on there as well. If you go back, one of our first Instagram posts from Lodi was at the end of the day, there was a big, like just one of the most beautiful rainbows I'd ever seen. And that was like just kind of a nice little icing on the cake. So
that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Favorite manager of all time?
I got to go with Bobby Heenan.
How could you not? The GOAT. Yeah,
sure.
if you're a manager in wrestling, that's who you look at. He's the Jordan. Favorite San Diego Comic-Con moment?
Wow. There's been a few. I've been really fortunate. There's been a few. Probably a tie, if I can do a tie, between meeting Seth MacFarlane and just I just happened to be in a line where we were able to. It was kind of like a step-by-step line to get through. But was able to just, because he's one of my favorite, comic creators. I love Family Guy. I love The Orville. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but it's a fun science fiction show. Being able to say that, that he was great and loved his work. And that was a fun moment. And then probably the other one was meeting Matt Groening from The Simpsons. I guess it's all animation, right?
Yeah.
But he was, so he did a sketch on a comic book for me live. It was a quick sketch, but being able to talk to him the whole time was awesome.
Did Seth MacFarlane do one of the voices for you?
He did not. He did not do any voices while he was up there, but it was fun still.
Can you do some Family Guy impersonations?
I cannot. I do not do any impersonations. I just have my voice and that's it.
Baby Huey, his Cleveland is actually pretty good. The no. It's kind of spot on. So what wrestler or actor would you love to book for Stockton Con?
We've booked some amazing talents. I mean, I think Kurt Angle was up there, like probably at the top of my list. He's always been one of my favorites, and we were fortunate enough to get him at our last summer event. On the wish list, man. I mean, if I'm going to say it doesn't matter who, I would say probably Cena or The Rock. But these are folks that are they're pretty busy. So, yeah. But it's really, but we've had some amazing guests. We had, Sting a few years ago as well. So, Sting was a great guest and just did a phenomenal job with his fans. But I mean, there are so many stars out there now. Like, I mean, it's current WWE, AEW, people in NWA, former stars that, there's so many that we're working on right now, trying to bring out to Stockton Con here in the summer, and then we'll see what happens with Lodi. But it's just the future of these events. I mean, I'm just hopefully we can stay together, and obviously we need to get through the pandemic and get back to doing events.
The light, it's at the end of the tunnel. It's shining. Sure. Was there an actor or a comic creator that you would love to have?
Yeah, obviously I'd love to have Matt Groening out. But I mean, he's more of an animator, but he did comics in the past, so he can kind of there. Jim Lee would be awesome. On the actor side of things, we've had a few guests from The Office. One of our wish lists, and we're kind of working on it. In the future is maybe Rainn Wilson. I think he'd be a great fun guest. God, there's so many people. Bruce Campbell's amazing. Like, pretty much throw anybody out there, Philip, and they're probably on our list somewhere.
McFarlane has to be on the list.
He is on there, yeah.
Okay.
So,
and then lastly, this question isn't mine. It's from somebody we both know. His name's Baby Huey. Favorite thing to order at Nations?
Wow. I kind of changed my diet a little bit. I mean, I still got to go with the cheeseburger. I mean, that's the ultimate number one. But I usually lately would get the salmon sandwich.
I've had the salmon. It's good.
Yeah, it's a good sandwich. But
are you a fan of their pies or?
Oh yeah, the Dutch apple pie, or is it? It's either French or Dutch. I'm not sure. If it's got the crumbles on it, it's my favorite pie by far.
There we go. Mike, thank you so much for doing this, man. And I got to tell you, man, like for me to interview Kelly, that was on the bucket list. Thank you so much.
I saw you smiling for like a week, man.
Hey, dude. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. I mean, I watched her growing up, man. So that meant the world to me. It meant the world for the show. It helped us out, gave us a little credibility. So, man, thank you so much, dude.
Sure, man. It's a pleasure, man. And anytime you want me back, I'd be glad to chat. We can do a special manager show.
Hey, I'd love it. So, man, let people know where they can find you. Let people know where they can find all the information for Lodi Con and Stockton Con.
Sure. I mean, the Stockton Con, all the social media for Stockton Con and for the Lodi Comic Con is all through at Stockton Con. So it's at Stockton Con on Twitter and Instagram, and then Facebook / Stockton Con. So you can find us there. We also have a specific Lodi page on Facebook, but all of our social media through Twitter and Instagram is all Stockton Con.
There we go, Mike. Hope to see you at APW when it resumes sometime in the future, or maybe I'll make the trip down for an SPW show. I know they just started running shows again.
Yeah, the next show is actually we're returning to action. I believe it is August 15th.
Okay. I might have to make the trip for that one.
We'll get you down there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Appreciate it.
Mike, thank you so much, brother.
For life.
This has been the Bulletcast. Thank you for listening.